How's it going? This is going to be a long rambling video. Well, maybe not really long, but long enough in my book. So, miniature painting. It's pretty fun. You know, I like to do it. Hang on, sorry, I'm getting this set up here. See what I can actually see. Alright. That is the nature of these videos. Not always going to be able to edit. Editing takes way too long. And it is something I'm willing to give up. So, moving forward. We got these guys I've been painting for a game, level 7 Omega Protocol. And before we get into that though, I kind of walk through my experience with some paints because I think that's it's a good place to start. You can see I have a nice selection back here. So kind of just want to get this out of the way. So you might know your primary colors. Red, blue, yellow. I found that out of any paints that I've bought the least, it is primary. And that is because I'm kind of a mix painter. I like to mix. It's not as a big of a tactic in miniature painting because there are lots of great colors you can buy that are already mixed. Lots of palettes you can build without mixing. Me though, I like mixing. And I like looking into mixing with primary colors because after all, that is most of your palette that you're going to need besides white and brown. So white and brown is kind of special because white and brown really, you know, they say you can mix all colors with these 5 right here. These are the 5, I guess, sort of, what would you call them? Like, raise the volume of my voice here for a second. Okay. What would we call them? Like, the base of every color. I think 99% of colors. I don't know what other colors you can't make with this. I think magenta or something. Bright neon colors, you know. You're not going to get that with these. But that's okay because, you know, you can buy that if you want it. So again, primary colors, I would say just get a good set of primary colors. This is the best red that I have. Pure red from Army Painter War Paints. It just always performs as it is, red. It's great. Amazing red. Blood red, I did not get from Scale Color pure red because they didn't have it. Because I think sort of in the same minds that, you know, just get red. And I think that sort of philosophy kind of gets into a lot of people's minds. And there you have it. Scale Color pure red is hard to get. So, yeah, here's Blood Red from Scale Color. I've actually haven't used this as much. You can see it's a little duller. I don't know what they did to it. Maybe added a little touch of green. I don't know. They doled it out somehow, but it still works. And then this is my pure blue. I actually find I use this blue a lot. I don't know what it is about it. It's arcane blue. It's just a great blue. It's kind of a sky blue, I would call it. Or robin egg blue is basically what it is. But it has this subtle touch of green, I'm pretty sure. It's not quite a turquoise, but it just feels, I don't know, arcane blue is really great. This one obviously is more of a pure blue, I would say. But so yeah, primary colors, get yourself a good primary color of each one, and boom, you don't need to buy any more yellows. I did buy one more yellow, actually. And at this point, it's only the difference of texture. There are slight shading differences, but really, I don't think it's too much of a big deal. Like, but just remember that if you're gonna buy, like yellow, any of your primary colors, you're just kind of messing with textures at that point, which is good. Different paints have different textures. So here's a color that I did end up buying lots of versions of because brown, I mean this one, Seraphim Sepia, yeah. Seraphim Sepia is a great wash. GW's washes are great. Where's my other brown I got back here somewhere? No, I don't have another brown back here. Okay. Browns are tricky to mix. Not really, but just I just find browns. I like getting different browns. That is one thing that I've bought different versions of because brown kind of gets old fast, and but you use it a lot. I find myself using hang on. Definitely find myself just wanting quick access to a different brown. I don't want to mix browns. So that is a color that I have bought a lot of. Also, I just want to shout out Saragwin Highlight, another P3 purple reddish. Great mid-tone. Not quite a red, but it's perfect mid-tone. Fleshes. I definitely think fleshes are... I didn't get all my fleshes. I have a couple more. Fleshes are good to buy. Flesh isn't necessarily hard to mix. Actually, funny enough, to mix a flesh, and pretty much any flesh, you mix your primary colors together and alter them in different ways, and you'll get different flesh colors. But yeah, flesh is tricky. So, actually, here's another dry brush flesh. Definitely experiment with fleshes. Fleshes, if you want to put your time into a certain tone or color, rather hue, flesh is good. Also, get a bright green, because it's hard to mix a bright green with just yellow and blue. It often doesn't come out really bright, so a really bright neon green is good to have. On the other hand, speaking of flesh, necrotic flesh, Army War Paints, this is kind of more of a green you would get if you mix blue and yellow. This really dulled out green, and I love necrotic flesh. I actually used it on these guys, which I don't know if I'm going to touch up. Actually, I think I'm just going to make this into a process video. So, also another shout out to what is this, Bone? It's like rubbed off now. I can't read it. Bone White, I think it is. It's an off-white. Never looked into it. Not sure how to mix this, but Bone White. It is the perfect bone. It is a color I will use forever as bone, just because it just comes out really good. I actually use it for this guy, for his head. I'll zoom in on this. Bone White's just good, so you can wash it in multiple ways. You can, of course, make bone out of it. In this case, I tried to make more of a flesh color with this guy. He's got some, there's a bug on my mic. He's got some cool details in his armor here. Still not done with this one. The eyes are not there. And, yeah, but I'm happy with his armor. This was actually metallic. Oh, that's one we did not go over is metallics. Get a close-up of this guy. Yeah. Really happy with their backpacks, how they turned out. They're pretty much all the same. But yeah, I'll go over this because this was a special process. I'm not done with this guy yet. I'm kind of explaining some stuff in there. So let's focus back out. And we'll talk about metallics. See where our focus is. Okay, we need to come out a little bit. Let's go in. There we go. Oh no, that's still in. I do not know how to focus apparently. All right. So metallics. Like gold and shiny stuff. Metallics are, I'm not sure how really much metallics you want to buy. Like, I got some different golds because I thought I was going to be using golds, but I never really end up using golds. There are times where I would want to, but me personally, I'm not much into gold, so I would rather do chrome or silver. And I have these two metallics, and they've been doing great for me. Cold steel and runefang steel. Pretty much the same metallic. This one is slightly brighter, but they both have their good properties. And it is worth to get a good metallic or two. Don't go crazy with metallics. You know, it's just not something that you're going to need a lot of. Try and fix this lighting a little bit. See, I'm trying to give a good idea of just, you know, colors to get into. Again, primary. You don't want to buy too many of. I delved into browns. And then you have washes, which, and I know it's washes. I can say washes, but I have an accent that makes me say wash. So, I've definitely experimented with lots of washes because there are just different brands. Get that one out of here. This is a glaze. Kind of works like a wash though. See if I have any others. No. These are worth experimenting with, I think. These come in a lot of use. It was actually how I was able to get all of the darker spots on this guy. Lots of wash buildup, which in miniature painting really helps when you have small models. So yeah. Kind of gone over, you know, with all of this selection that I have, I don't feel the need to buy any more paints really. So let's talk about brushes, because brushes, they're an interesting subject. So these are the best brushes I have, Bomb Wicks. These I have not touched. They're still brand new. Never put paint on them once. And that's because I like keeping my good brushes nice. These are the ones that I have been using. Now, it's funny because I bought these brushes. Was very happy with them, excited with them. And I was so excited with them. I just don't use them anymore. And that's because I started using synthetic department store brushes, which not all of these have good tips. Here's the thing with these. You pay $5 for like a pack like this, about this many brushes, and maybe 2 or 3 of them will be good. And you have to look at them in the package to see which ones are good. But they are significantly less cheaper. You can get like 2 packs of, what is it, like maybe 12 or so brushes for the price of one of these. And so over time, see if I can pick out one with a good tip. Yeah, this one has a pretty good tip for a just a cheap brush. It's a good tip. These tips do wear out a lot faster. You can see these two are starting to get a little frayed, and the tips bend actually, which is more annoying than you think it would be, but you can still use it. And it's so funny that I've gotten comfortable with these brushes that I just don't even want to use my good brushes, because why use my good brushes that I spent so much money on? And kind of a weird cycle. But nonetheless, that's how it is. If there is some extreme detail work on a mini, freehands work, I would probably get my nice brushes out because I want those lines to be crisp. So I actually just got, and Sam Lins actually was someone who inspired me on that, because he got department store brushes. So another thing, makeup brushes for dry brushing actually work very well. These ones with the contour, the soft round bristles like this, very good for dry brushing. Like, pretty remarkable actually how well these work as a dry brush. This one, I believe I got both of these for $8. And these are definitely a little bit nicer. They have a nice ferrule on the tip here, and they were shaped well. They have a very specific shape to them. So I use these for dry brushing, and pretty much everything with this, basing, washing, everything with this brush. In detail work, I'll pull out a tiny brush. So literally, I mean, all of these are just kind of sitting here because they're just synthetics. But out of any of these miniatures, or my latest kind of technique is just using these 3 brushes. If I could make it 2, I would. But if this was a nice brush, basically, and had a very nice tip, I could use just this one. But the tips on these aren't as good, so you kind of have to preserve a tip from a smaller one for your tiny detail work. So that's brushes. It's kind of funny to not use expensive brushes that you bought, Another thing, mediums. So I'm not technically sure if this is a medium flow improver, but it's great stuff. Mix it with your washes, and it makes everything silky smooth. All of your fades and everything adds a very, very nice silky kind of gradients to all of your washes. So Vallejo Flow Improver, I put that in every wash that I use, and I also put it in my base coats and such, which I don't really notice much of a difference. You don't have to if you're trying to save it. Just use it in your washes. That's where it really shines. And then speaking of shining, anti-shine. I have not messed with this stuff at all. I just got it because I was experimenting. I wanted to see how another matte varnish would see or work. I bought this stuff. It's pretty good for being matte. It has a slight gloss, but it is kind of like the perfect middle grounds between matte and gloss, honestly. Like, this stuff's pretty good. Again, a good middle ground. But I found out recently that if you use Mod Podge and water it down, it is very matte. And if you know how Mod Podge dries, it dries very sturdy. And that stuff is really good to use for matte. So that's actually what I use matte now, and I don't have any of that sitting around, but just to sort of, give a call out to the matte varnish that I do like. It is Mod Podge. That is watered down. That one's weird. I never would have guessed that. I do use a brush soap, Gin-tastic's Drunken Brush Scoop. I believe you can still get this stuff. There are other brush soaps in the market. This is just a natural soap. I believe this is 1 ounce. I've had this now for, probably 2 years, 2.5 years. And out of 1 ounce, I have maybe gone through a sixth of it, or maybe a fifth, maybe not even a sixth. I don't know, but stuff smells good. So I do clean my brushes. Synthetic brushes deserve cleaning, even though the conditioning aspect of it is not really there, but it's good to keep your brushes clean. I do recommend that. So let's go on to a miniature process, because basically there are multiple things in the process that I do for certain reasons. And the first thing, so these I did not actually get the mold lines off of, because I tend to not care too much about mold lines unless they're really big and obvious. Then it's bad. But these weren't that bad. There's actually one on top of his head. I think you can see it. He had one on his head too. But I mean, I feel like the paint job kind of shines through. But yeah, if you want to get those mold lines off, do those first. Use the back of a hobby knife. Look at this rusted thing. And then, you can get your mold lines off. I always clean them with some warm soapy water and let them air dry. I might use a Q-tip or a towel to kind of speed up the process. And then after that, I definitely use a primer. And this primer, the Armory, I really like this stuff. This is the best primer that I've used personally. But also, you can always get Rust-Oleum. You can get it at your department store. Rust-Oleum's fine. Recently, I picked up some Army Painter primer. This is white. This has a bad rap for some reason. I don't know why this stuff, has much of a bad rap, but I really like this stuff. Of course, I'll do a zenithal. Let's pull out. Ooh. Oh, I just bumped some paint off him. So this is Dr. Kronos, which is the most evil alien of the Omega 7 Protocol universe. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I have no idea of the lore. But he created these clones. Have another guy here who has not started yet. It's just got zenithal on him. So I do prime. I recommend priming. Priming's good. Does some good things. And I guess I'll show kind of my palette setup for the last thing, which I do use a wet palette. You can see here. So this was the current palette I was using to paint the guys with the pink backpacks. Obviously, there's the pink. You can see it as separated. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through this and kind of dry up space on this, which I recommend you do if you bust out a wet palette. You can see I have the wash right here on the edge. But yeah, I'm going to go through and mix and kind of re-separate and space out the paints, which I, again, recommend you do if you let your palette sit overnight. I also have a dry palette. This I was using for the metallic because you don't want to mix metallic in here. You also want to have, I like having 2 jars of water just because mixing water kind of gets annoying, and it's nice to have 2, especially if you're using your metallics. So yeah, we got a wet palette, we got a dry palette, we got 2 things of water, we got our brushes, and this is all, if you can see, is sitting on a kitchen towel, which I will use to dry the brush off at random points, or let the water or the paint run off onto this if the brush is loaded too high. So that's kind of my process. I've been miniature painting now for 6 years or so, so this is kind of my my go-to setup, really, that it has ended up being. Oh, and of course, get something to put your miniatures on. Like these guys have their corks that they sit on. So that one's kind of obvious, but yeah. So I think I'm gonna end the video here. Just kind of a walkthrough again of my painting process and what that entails, and then I might upload a painting video soon. I'm not sure. Really, I don't have any plans to, so just keep on the lookout for that. Check my channel for games, reviews, and other just kind of wacky, random, nerdy stuff, So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, have a good night, day, or whatever time it is where you are. And I'll talk to you later.